I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let the roll call show that all council members are present. Have a motion to approve the agenda.
Can I amend that, make a motion to amend it? Because I have my answer for that thing way down at the bottom. So we can either take it off of there or skip it when we get there. Down there, round table. I won't need to discuss that because I've already got the answer.
Okay,
So, I mean, we can either scratch it or skip it, however you want to do it.
we just skip it. We'll get there.
Okay, then I'll move to approve the agenda then.
May I have a second?
Second.
Been moved and second that we approve the agenda. Any other further discussion?
I have some questions on the minutes. Got to find where they are in the minutes here. I asked about the third liquor license. What was going to happen that? That was not recorded in the minutes. And I was told that was going to be returned to the town. To be sold.
Correct.
Okay, that was not in the minutes.
And we'll sure make that addition.
Okay. And then I had some questions about the bills.
Did we approve the agenda yet?
What's that?
We haven't approved the agenda yet.
Oh, I thought
You
we
got a
did.
step
No.
ahead of us.
Okay.
This
He
is.
said there was any questions. So therefore I thought we were in
No, this
discussion.
is- No, this is, that's,
You're an
Okay.
overachiever, Bob.
Okay, he said, are there any questions? So,
well, I mean, what we're talking about today,
okay,
meetings, agenda.
okay.
So,
I thought we had a motion and a second.
and we have a second. And
Yeah.
I asked for questions. If no other further questions, all in favor, say aye to approve the agenda.
Aye.
Opposed, same.
Okay, thank you, Ron.
Motion passed unanimously.
Okay,
Approve the minutes.
Yeah, pardon?
To approve the minutes, right?
Approve the minutes.
okay. I apologize.
So we approved the our agenda for today.
Now we're on minutes.
Now we're to comments from citizens.
Yeah, we skipped it, that's right, okay.
Okay, skipped it.
I still have some questions on the bills.
We'll get there.
So we're on.
We will get there.
We're
Councilman
on
Shannon, please.
Consent agenda approval, okay.
Oh, you're in the wrong, you're in the last week's.
Yeah.
Look at this.
Okay. My mistake. I was looking at the wrong.
Okay, we'll get there.
Okay, so,
Communication from the audience, from citizens.
Really quick, I didn't ask to be put on the agenda, but I just
Can you
wanted,
please identify yourself? If you need the microphone, it's a little high.
okay, my name's Jennifer Shano. I didn't ask to be put on the agenda, but I did want to come and talk to you guys about farmer's market. I don't know if you want me to do that at this time or later. Let me know.
Can you do it in about 3 minutes? Go ahead.
Yep.
Go ahead.
So, starting May 7th, we're looking to go outdoors again and going back to every Friday. But we would like to talk to the council to see if we can still keep the community room open unless there's other events that are scheduled due to weather changes, so that we don't have to cancel market once we're outdoors again. I have News 13 coming on the 7th to interview all of the vendors. And honestly, farmers market has gone really well this winter. So I want to continue that trend that we've been doing. So that's all I've got for farmers market.
Well, you're asking that you would like to keep the option of be able to continue to use the community room if needed.
Yes.
Yeah.
She could reserve them if she wanted to, for whatever dates too, so either or, yeah, I don't have a problem.
Well, and you know how Wyoming is. One day we got sun, one day we got snow. So we just want to have it available so that we can say, market will be indoors this time. No, it'll be outdoors, just through our communication with everybody.
I don't have an issue with it.
Okay.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
And great job at farmers market.
Absolutely.
It's been good. Any other communications?
Mayor and City Council, my name is John Rimosh. I'm the owner and CEO of Wasatch Rail Car Repair right across the street here. And I'm here tonight just to present myself to the city council, the community, family and friends, those that are suffering today. As all of you are aware, we had an incident over at our facility this past week that took the life of 2 of our employees. The accident is currently under investigation, and we are participating actively in the investigation to find out exactly what happened and what can be done to prevent things like that from happening in the future. But I wanted to share a few things with the community, mostly related to grieving and healing, and then also to community leaders as well for just a moment. First, on the subject of healing and grieving, I really want the entire community to know that as an owner, as a CEO of the company, that I'm very accessible to anybody that needs to talk or grieve, or that may need some counseling, or that wants to understand a little bit better. Situations like this can be traumatic because even though they may not have happened exactly to our family, in small communities like this, we are one big family. And so these types of events touch all of us, and they have an impact on all of us. And some of us may feel like we don't have a venue or an avenue to express frustration or grief or pain, or even to show love and kindness and compassion to the family members that this has happened to. So I'm here in the community, both here in Shoshoni and over in Riverton, doing everything I can to facilitate listening to that grief, listening to that pain, and then to facilitate some healing and help folks the best that we can. Mayor, the other thing that I wanted to share with you specifically and with the city council, I understand that we live in a day and an age of social media where when events like this happen, we can be bombarded by hundreds, if not hundreds of thousands of people that know much better how to deal with the situation than the people that actually dealt with the situation. I'm very much aware of the fact that Riverton Fire Department, Shoshoni Police Department, Shoshoni Volunteer Fire Department, and a number of others are taking some criticism for the way things were handled at the incident scene. But Mayor, I need to tell you and the city council that the people that were at that incident, and I was there as well, the people that were there, the people that were in charge did an outstanding job of focusing on the things that needed to happen, taking care of people, making sure that we didn't lose additional life, making sure that we didn't have additional injuries. And I know that it's easy to criticize all of those folks and the things that they did. And I know that some of these folks, and some of them are here at the table tonight, are going to, in their own individual way, evaluate the situation, make some changes, recommend some changes, and do things differently. And that's all natural and part of the process. But as part of the healing process for all of us, I think it's really important that the city council and the mayor know and understand that every effort was made to handle that situation the very best way that they could. And I want to thank Chris Conja, the members of the volunteer fire department, the members of the Fremont County Fire Department that were here. We had people that came over from Casper as well to help with the incident. All of them did a tremendous job in the way that they handled it. They were all very professional in handling the situation. Now, Mayor, I know that we don't have a lot of time tonight, and I'm not here to cumber up your meeting or to take up a lot of time, but I do want to offer you and your city council just a moment or two if you have any specific questions that you might want to ask me or anything that I might be able to address for you or the community right now.
Any questions? Do appreciate you coming and talking to the, not only us, but to the community, and we're on Zoom. There's many people watching also. It was a very traumatic event that happened to our community, and you're correct. We're a small community, so everybody knows pretty much everybody. But appreciate you coming and offering to help with the grieving process of whatever you can do. I'm sure investigation to hopefully a good thing will come out of a bad thing. We'll figure out what caused it, and if there's any way that can be prevented, it's in the future. But thank you,
Mayor. More than anything, that's exactly what I want and what my team wants is we want to be able to take what is currently a very bad situation and make sure that it can become a positive for everybody in the community. Speaking of positives, if I can just finish with this very quickly, Mayor, our company's just received a contract to do a very large project on some coal cars, not related to tank cars. In fact, we won't be doing any more tank car work in the community anymore. But this project with these coal cars is a very long-term project that's going to provide additional jobs at the facility, a lot of good work, and some pretty steady income for members of the community, people that may want to work. Mayor, with my previous comment about the criticism that's going on, I hope one of the things that I'm hoping for within the communities, both here in Shoshoni and in Riverton, is that we can come together and see the good that we all strive to do for the community. As a businessman, is it easy to just roll up your sleeves and pack up your box and go away? Probably in a situation it would be. But it takes a lot of faith and a lot of strength and a lot of courage to be able to look at what you have in front of you and say, hey, we've got some good days in front of us. We've got better days in front of us. We've got some good opportunities. And let's leave those opportunities in the communities where they're needed most, and let's let them grow and flourish and do everything they can to be beneficial for the community. And I just want all of you to know that as a Wyoming resident, even though I live in Cheyenne, the state is my home. And I care very much about the community and about jobs and about people and about safety and about all of the things that are important to all of you folks. I just don't want any of you to think that we don't care about those things. In closing, Scott and Sharon Taylor are here with us today at the meeting. They manage our facility across the street. If any of you want to talk to us or want to talk to me directly, please come in and see us. Chris also has all of my direct contact information, knows how to contact me. My door's open. I'm happy to help anybody at any time. Mayor, I really appreciate the time that you let me have tonight with you and your community.
thank you.
Thank you.
Any other communications from the citizens? None being, let's move on to the consent agenda. Let's look at kind of a motion to approve the minutes from April 13th, 2021.
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Been moved and second. We approve the minutes for April 13th, 2021. Discussion.
Thank you, Mayor. I asked her about the third liquor license and
Yeah.
what was going to happen to it. That was not in the minutes.
Any other additions, deletions?
are we ready to go on to bills?
No, we're gonna do one at a time.
Okay.
So been moved and second, no further discussion. All in favor to approve the minutes as amended for April 13th, 2021, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Can I have a motion to approve the bills from April 14th, 2021 through April 27th, 2021?
I so move.
May I have a second?
I'll second that.
Been moved and second that we approve the bills April 14th, 2021 to April 27th, 2021. Discussion.
My questions are for Chris. We have a couple bills for security cameras. Where are they going?
That's the ongoing service charge.
Okay.
The first one was a void and it was reissued because they didn't receive the check and cash it, so we had to void it and then reissue it.
Okay. And the dash cams are on all the cars, police cars now?
That's just one component of that.
Okay,
That just came in early, separately from the bulk order.
okay. Then we paid our yearly bill to fire district.
Correct.
Okay.
Paid it early, actually. It was due in June, but we
Paid it now. I pulled it up from last year, if I remember right. $100 more.
had a slight increase. Last year, if you remember, it never got paid. So when I came on board, I paid it in July, so I paid it late. But it was never paid last year, so. Well, it was paid, but not.
Yeah. That's all I have.
Chris, on the liability insurance, that was one that we talked about previously about the substantial increase.
No, this is our LGLP insurance, separate from the.
The unemployment insurance.
Yeah, it's, yeah, correct. So this was something that we, just renewal on a yearly basis.
I mentioned that because we'd found out
Did you get yours?
we received the same, and we called them asking if this was a fraudulent claim just in case, but they had said to plan on it for the remainder of the year.
That's how I believe, to my knowledge, it'll slowly shrink down, but it's not going to be a drop off to what it is for the foreseeable future.
Any other questions? All in favor of approving the bills April 14th, 2021 through April 27th, 2021, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion passed unanimously. Department of Audit results.
So these are all available online on the Department of Audit website for everyone to look at their leisure, but I'm just going to brief the council and just kind of go over the results and what our responses were, where we're at with the recommendations from the audit itself. So just briefly, the internal controls that were found, this, to clarify, this audit period was July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019. And that was the period that was being examined during the course of the audit. What was found was internal controls, which is mechanisms that we have within the city administration to prevent fiscal irresponsibility, fraud, those types of things like that is what is referred to by internal controls. And during that audit period, they were found to be extremely weak, lacked oversight on various critical areas, including accounts payable, when we pay our bills, a multitude of other aspects of signature cards down to just basic accounting practices. and then also some of the accuracy of how things were being inputted into our systems that were reported. So one of the first one was lack of written policies. The recommendation was that we have a policy on how we handle our affairs as far as the administration goes. Part of that was job descriptions and specific tasks for each employee. And one of the things that the response on this was, we acknowledge that with the recommendation that we need to have those. And the division of responsibility is what prevents or catches one employee that's doing one thing that they shouldn't be doing. Our official response that was done was, while we know that these were present during the audit period, procedures that I put in place in July are being recorded into a written form that will be included in our administration policies that define specific tasks and the order of events that each position does. For example, previously, one employee could enter a bill, receive the money, deposit the money into the system, and then have it reflected on that, on the ledger. That's no longer possible. There's no one employee in this entire administration that does anything cradle to grave. And every task that is done here has an overlapping accountability, whether it be me, Kathy, Barney, the judge, and ultimately city council or town council, sorry. And the one thing that we don't have is a disaster recovery plan. However, that has been, what that refers to, not necessarily a nuclear bomb goes off, but like Hudson, they have a flood plan. So if their town hall floods, how are they going to conduct business when their town's flooded? We don't really have that, but ours is more related to staff turnover. What happens if a critical component of our staff leaves? How do we continue going on? And that has been facilitated through cross-training of every employee. So if Marnie is gone, myself, Kathy, or Melissa can fill in and do her duties and responsibilities to the expectations of that position, and vice versa. There's not any one task that there's not somebody cross-trained that can do it. Whether they do it on a daily basis is not the point. It's just that they can, and that's part of the disaster recovery plan, because ours is more relatable to turnover. And that was agreed with the auditors. The next one is lack of governing body oversight. If you recall, we had 13 bank accounts. And so where there was lack of governing body oversight during the audit period was we had a clerk and a deputy clerk that both could sign a check. I brought this up, I believe, in June when I was the interim clerk, and asked the council to close those accounts immediately, which the council agreed and we did. But what was going on was that these checks, whether it was something that was agreed upon by council or not, it never came on that bill list. So when you see that general ledger now, we have one account. There's literally no way to issue a check that has not come through the city council for oversight, for comment, for the public to see. In the past, we had 13 accounts. Some of those accounts were signed off without a single governing body member signing on that check. In a lot of cases, the mayor or the mayor pro tem signed it with or without the clerk or the deputy clerk. And sometimes it was the clerk and the deputy clerk that both signed a check, in one case to herself. That can't happen. It just can't. And that's what was changed in July to prevent that. And also lack of financial reporting. If you look back at some of the financial reporting, it might have been one sentence, this is our balance. There was no context to it. The governing body had no idea what we really had, where we had it, other than what was stated on one line. All of our quarterly reports are done. I post the last one we did actually, or sorry, the third one we did, actually posted our actual bank account statement. That was one of the recommendations that was made. Now, we were already doing it. So I those are the things that are required by statute that we produce. The clerk produces a quarterly report to the council. And those are now all archived online. So anybody can go back and look at it. But that was not being done prior. So that goes back into the governing body oversight. If the governing body has no idea what our financial status is, because other than a single number, they're not being a quarterly report on what our fiscal health is. So there was no checks and balances there. It was, for lack of a better word, the administration doing things without the full knowledge of the governing body. And that is one thing that was corrected in July with the new budget that we went through, for those that were on council, and if not, they're online to go look at, but also the quarterly reports that we do where our financial health is being put out there for the public to understand, as well as the budgets and our balances and our actual bank statements, which has provided the full oversight of the governing body for all transactions through one single bank account. Credit card statements also are provided. Before, you just got a bill that you had to ask for. Now they're included. Again, that was another thing that was conducted prior to these results. General ledger discrepancies. The recommendation was the reduction of bank accounts to a single account, which is what we, that was what we did. The recommendation was should compare GL entries and cancel check copies. And also for reimbursements, the check should be made out for the amount the receipt support. Every one of our checks that comes through here that is approved by council is back there for public examination at any council meeting. I can pull it out and you can examine it. Prior to, checks were being submitted and sent prior to council having any knowledge of what it was, much less the receipts. And sometimes the discrepancies come from a GL that was actually GL'd for $232 that was paid to an employee, but the GL was to, when I say GL, the general ledger was reflected on the budget, and that payment actually was coded as a WCDA loan payment, not a payment to the employee. Those are the types of things that were being conducted when you had those multiple bank accounts that you had the ability to do that no longer exist. And so those were things that I took measures to suggest to council to make or have made as far as our operating procedures in-house. A lot of it comes down to lack of employee training in the accounting software. A lot of it was just simple mistakes and misunderstanding on how to code things. And you can talk to Marnie and as well as Kathy that numerous times they come check with me or I come check with them why they did something and we make the corrections. That's where that overlapping accountability comes from, where there's not one person that's doing everything, the singular task. There's a constant evaluation amongst multiple levels to catch those things because they are human error. But a lot of it comes down to lack of training in those components. I did offer, when it was brought to my attention by Marnie, for some training for Cassell. She took the classes and to continue to evolve and know how to input things and catch things in a better manner than was previously done. So a lot of it comes down to training, and it's ongoing. You can't just not have that training. So Marnie took an initiative to find the training, asked for it, and she received it. Missing documentation. So this, I agree in principle, but I disagree with the conclusion about missing documentation. I feel that because of the chaos that ensued and the disorganization of files from the court all the way up to administration, and not having the ability to have the auditors here in person presented, and they agree with that aspect of it, that if they were here in time, we would find the documentation. Specifically, when I say missing documentation, 1 out of 173 expenditure transactions was unable to be able to find the basis for that transaction. And it wasn't a amount that goes over their limit, but it was something that we couldn't find. It doesn't mean it wasn't there. And when I said that we were continuously going through this audit up until a month ago or a month and a half ago, we were still looking for documents, and we'd find them, we'd send them to the auditors, and then that's where Melissa came in with the scanning. Without her scanning all that, this never would have been completed because there were so many missing documentation, but she literally scanned everything. And we sent the whole hard drive down to Cheyenne for them to evaluate. That's where a lot of this came from. So the documents were there. We just couldn't find it. So I don't necessarily agree that we were missing the documentation, just that it wasn't filed and organized in a discernible manner that was easily accessible. Weakness in the court citation receipt books. So the recommendation was that only use one receipt book. We were using two, and there should be a policy on how to manage multiple receipt books and reconciliations to ensure the same receipt number is not being issued twice. A lot of the problem with the court aspect came from, you have one receipt for someone was cited for a citation. They came in and paid it. They were issued a receipt. That money was then receipted again on a different receipt book with a different receipt number. So when you're trying to track the receipt number by hand, you can't find it. So what I did is if council remembers, I asked to buy the court module or the expanded module for the court where we could do the tracking in Cassell. So for example, when money came in, it wasn't being cash receipted into our accounting software. It was being hand cash receipted separately and then manually entered into the Cassell software by hand, which is a function you can do. What that leaves, though, is when one person is taking the money, taking the citation, hand receipting it, and then putting it into the system, you can see how that can be a huge internal control failure where that money could disappear by whoever is doing that task. It's just a concern, not that it did happen or didn't happen, but that was one of the internal controls previously mentioned. And so that threw a lot of confusion on there is how to track this money. How do we track the deposits? Because that money sometimes would be spread out over 4 or 5 or 6 different deposits. How can you do that? And that's where Tony, when he asked council to have Cassell reconcile the books, that's where that stemmed from. When he left and I was the interim, I'm sure Joel, Marty, and Kathy probably remember me spending nights here till 2 o'clock in the morning trying to literally draw a map on a piece of paper, trying to figure out where this deposit came from this source into this deposit from this source over here. And our solution for that was with Cassell. So every payment that comes in to town hall is cash receipted. It receives its unique transaction number that is linked because that any transaction has to have a payer. So the payer has to be entered the citation. So you have triplicate copies. You have the digital transaction, you have the entry of the citation, and then you have the physical copy of the citation or utility payment or whatever it may be. You have all those three. So now you have 3 different levels of security for being able to track that. So anybody that makes a payment now, I can go in there, I can look up their name, I can tell you exactly where the payment is, and I can go to Kathy and she can go pull that exact physical hard copy of that has a unique generated transaction number that's affixed to it. So that was what we did back in, I believe we implemented that in, I want to say May of last year. So before we went to the new year, that was already implemented. That was one of the first things that we changed because of, in April, the chaos of trying to find where our money was. And that was the biggest task that I undertook was that, and that was what was implemented for that. And it also has a 3rd level of redundancy checks. The judge then signs off on everything after that. So in this case, there's not just overlapping, there's redundant overlapping to ensure that everything is done and everything's accounted for and can be tracked simply from source of the money. It matches to the deposit, which matches to the transaction, which then matches to the citation that was issued, which then matches up to what was seen by the judge. We move into public officers having custody of monies must be bonded. This is something that we actually have here that's being taken care of. This was not addressed until after the audit, which was actually unknown to me. I did not understand that everybody on council that's on the signature card need to be bonded as well. And so that is something that is being rectified now. This is one of the things that we are rectifying as a result of the audit. and will be rectified after today. Well, actually, it was rectified at the last council meeting, but it's in the process of getting the bonds. Next is invoices and perjury statements. So what that is on every invoice that's back there after the council approves it, the issuer, whether myself, Kathy, or Marnie, signs under penalty of perjury that receipt documentation matches the money that is being allocated. So they have to match. And that was not on all transactions done in the past. There were some transactions that were missing that perjury statement that attest to whoever after council approves them, whoever is submitting them attests to that. And that was not on every one of the transactions. That was actually resolved back in July as well. Our official response was, and all responses are also online too. The next one is the Supreme Court. So there's a civil legal service fee that is part of our bond schedule. So what that is a Wyoming state statute that requires on their bond schedule, $10 of every citation be remitted to the court, Supreme Court of Wyoming, for the civil litigation fee, which provides lawyers and things like that for their civil processes for those that can't afford it. There's also the court automation. We're not currently in the court automation, so that's not one we have to pay, but the civil litigation or civil legal service fee is one that's not. That's something that I actually notated to the auditors that was not being done. And through their process of the courts, that was another conclusion. That is being done as well. And that will actually be in the budget in July. We'll be making the payment for this past year. And that will be budgeted into July's budget for that payment. And then another thing that there's not a depreciation fund in our utilities. I believe Councilman Zent brought that up when he was questioning the funds that we had for the enterprise funds, what that money is. Well, we don't have a depreciation fund. And that's one of the things that working with GORS that we identified. I'm not sure if Carl's here, but I brought that up to him that that will be in our budget when we present the next budget with the depreciation fund separate. Anyone that doesn't understand what the depreciation fund is, what that is a rolling 10-year average, what it's going to cost to replace a component of our pumps. It's not, we set that aside specifically for that purpose to replace equipment that goes down. It's not, the depreciation fund is separate from monies that is meant for investment into furthering or building new lines and expanding sources. It's meant to maintain what we have. And that didn't exist. What was being done previously is any overages that were being shown and reported on the enterprise fund was just being transferred into a general account, and that was essentially functioning as a depreciation fund, but not in the way it was meant to be done. And so that will be rectified in our next budget as well. Bid processes for vehicles. So there was some vehicles, I guess, that was purchased without doing a bid or requesting a bid. And that obviously after our last one, that was the way we did it with going on the bid process from the state. This specifically was just buying a used car at some point in 2018 or 2019. I'm not sure which one it was there was nothing put out for it. It was just purchased. I believe it's in Chicago. Black and white.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple of meetings ago when we spelled out the Wyoming statute that allows for the cooperation of that is what we're doing now. So now we are in compliance with that process. But back then there was a misconception that since it was under a certain value and it was a used vehicle, that we didn't have to do the bid. That's how it was purchased. So it was an oversight. It was just a misunderstanding of the statute. We are now in compliance with the way that we purchase vehicles. There was a town contractor that was paid in excess of $600 for the fiscal year, and a 1099 was not created, which is a violation of IRS. Everyone on the governing body is responsible for that. We have reissued the 1099. all of our W-9s were updated during the tax year. I thank Marnie for that. She took the initiative to contact every one of our vendors just to update them, make sure we had everyone on file. This was a result of a twofold. It was notated that it needed to be done and it never was done. So it wasn't an oversight in regards to not knowing. It was known, it just wasn't done for that employee. So we took steps to remedy that and rectify that and reissue the 1099 and also contacted the IRS to absolve the town of any liability. And then the W-499s during that audit period were not complete. Joni, when I was the intern, was in the process and I reviewed them all and we certified all of our employee files have current W-4 and I-9s. So that has already been rectified as well. And the last one is the town violated the statute by depositing funds into a credit union. There was a debate that the funds that were being deposited were not public funds as they were generated through lease agreements. That by definition is public funds. If we own something, we generate revenue off of it, that is a public fund. But that takes away from the fact that we cannot do business with a credit union currently. We just can't in any capacity. We cannot. And that was one of the other things that was also closed back in June immediately. The rest of the audit is sensitive material because it involves IT and our vulnerabilities. All I can say on that is that we now have a firewall, we have a VPN. I'll get to it in the clerk's report, but we also have purchased our own town domain. So our emails will be being updated and validated, and we will be getting away from source-free email that is compromising. I believe Marnie can attest to some of the emails that I said, I hope you didn't click on this when you got the email. And she said, no, I did not. So 90% of the audit results are unique in the fact that we've already addressed and made the corrections of the recommendations before we had the recommendations. The ones that aren't corrected yet are in the process of being corrected or implemented, such as putting the policies that we currently operate under that have been verbally done and been conducted with the employees in the job descriptions, the way we handle things, putting that down on paper in an official policy that anyone that comes after will have that to be able to follow, and that stays in place unless they change it. So that's just a summary of the reading, but like I said, it is online, it is public, and anybody can go read it beyond that. Or if they have any questions or want to talk about anything about it in greater detail, I'll be happy to talk about them after the meeting, anytime, Monday through Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whenever you see me driving around. That's all I have on that.
I make a remark, because I know you won't. I had the opportunity to sit in on the telephone conversation with the gentleman whose name is on the report. Put this in a nutshell, Chris did a really good job. Most of the stuff was fixed, like you said, before this ever came to pass. And I told him he needed an attaboy for it. And of course, Chris, well, it's just part of my job. But in a nutshell, we're looking pretty good. Okay, I didn't mean to embarrass
No.
you, but I know some of that was probably really hard for some of you guys, like, what's he talking about? But we came out looking really good, and when the rest of this is implemented. And then the second thing that Chris didn't mention, this is the first time this has ever been done distance, and which he alluded to that it was really difficult. And I'm really happy, and I think the state auditor is really happy with how this worked out. So in case any of you were wondering what was just said, that's the Reader's Digest version.
And I guess I will add the one thing I did forget to notate was, I believe you were on there when he said it, that normally they do a follow-up audit, just check our stuff, but because of what we've already implemented and what we've already done to correct it,
Yeah.
we are not on their radar we're not the problem child that they need to come back and
Yeah.
they have confidence that we have made these changes. We will have a follow-up audit at some point, probably within 4 years. One of the things that will be a result of this is that I will draft a resolution to give to the mayor to take a look at, which will dictate terms that we will have a actual audit within a certain time frame, and a suggested time frame, and a red line time frame. So within whatever that looks like, there'll be some, but this will be a reoccurring theme that we do, whatever the final iteration that looks like, that will be presented to council to look at. And it won't be an audit that's a self-audit, it will be an external audit. One of the other things too was prior to that, speaking of audits, the auditor in this case, we were auditing ourselves. So we were auditing at the time. Every year we would do a audit of ourselves by ourselves. So it's like the police investigating themselves on something they physically did, not having a different agency do it. That's what allowed a lot of us to continue for the time frame, because it wasn't being caught or addressed or known, because when you're not seeing it. And it's no fault in anyone, but that's just why you want to have an outside set of eyes look on things, to be able to see it from a different perspective, to catch these things. And so that is why that would be one of the things that wasn't in this portion of it, but that's one of the things that the mayor, I believe, I'm not sure if Councilman Zenner or Ankeny was on that phone call, but that's one of the things that we will be drafting for the mayor to look at and present to council at some point in the near future, to dictate this, how this goes in the future.
Well, you know, one thing I'd like to comment on, or more training and your guidance, Chris, where you're using for sell, using it as a tool is designed to do. That's been a big thing, but need to thank Chris's mom. I came in late one night and he had her on Sunday, and she was in here working, helping him sort some of that stuff out. Just want to say that, but yeah, he brought in the big guns.
She's been
But he's
doing,
literally trying to find things. That's what he was doing.
and that was back in May.
Yeah.
Last year, and that was one of the biggest things that, as the treasurer, that's what I'm responsible for. And I did what I had to do to figure out where everything was, and that's she did quite a lot of help.
Yeah. They brought her some outside help.
She was free labor, just so you know. She didn't charge anything.
No, but that's, this is one of the reasons we did, the council, everybody on the council wanted to have an audit. That's why I called the state and asked them to audit us. We had concerns. I couldn't figure out where we were at, so. But we lived through that, and we're going the right way. A lot of hard work. Marnie and Melissa, and Kathy, and Chris. We had, and Joni. Don't want to forget Joni. Thank the Lord, Joni came in. That was a lot of help. Yeah. We ready? Like to move on?
Unless anybody has any questions or anything else.
Ambulance service. Marnie, would you like to speak a little bit about it?
He's actually got a better
Okay.
on that right now.
Okay.
So as many know, the AMR has not renewed their contract with the county effective June 30th. We have no other bids. I know that the county commissioners are still working on options and contingency plans. And after talking with Marnie and the mayor, looking at what are we going to do as a community that's kind of on the far reaches of Fremont County. And I understand Riverton Lander, they have an ER right there. We have a clinic here, but it's not an ER. It's only open a couple of days a week. And we have lots of things that happen in this area, not just our community, but coming into our community. And we do have like Jody Lang, and he is a first responder to be able to transport someone to the hospital, but he can't actually provide any care. And so one of the things that I would, I guess, present to the council to maybe take a look at, I can bring things and have maybe even have a workshop on it, depending on how things transpire. I just don't think that it's prudent for us to wait till June 30th and just hope and pray that something's going to happen in the county while we have no plan in place and we do nothing to address it. My suggestion would be that we take a look at the feasibility of other towns, small towns models of just going out ourselves, which we can certainly do. There's various options out there. We do have EMTs in town. One of the things that we can do, at least to buy us time, is, again, these are just things to look at, but we need to take a serious look at it. But every one of our police officers, Jeff Leafgreen, for example, is an intermediate EMT. So he can actually run an ambulance crew. Marnie's a former EMT. I would say, we have the ability to train every one of our police officers to be an EMT and at least be able to drive an ambulance. That solves one of the problems. Number two is having volunteers. I believe we have enough people in this community that have the knowledge and ability that would do it on a volunteer basis, much like the fire department does. And that could get trained to facilitate that. So at least we have some kind of ambulance care here that can provide care. But it's something that, if we just have a first responder, really all that is somebody to drive someone to the hospital. I mean, that's really all that is. If there's no care given, there's nothing that can be given in the meantime. But if we have an EMT, there is some care that can be given beyond just simply going really fast to the hospital. And I know it's an additional duty for the police officers initially, but I think we should all be EMTs anyway. I mean, we're usually going to be the first ones there. When I was in the military, I was a combat medic. I haven't done anything for years, but that's just one of the things that I think we should do anyway, especially around here where even with the current ambulance service, they're 20 minutes away. It would be a smart thing to have that trained to begin with. And it's just avenues to look at. But if we don't do something, we have to come up with a plan. We have to come up with some kind of contingency that if things go south there, we're left without an ambulance in Fremont County. I mean, it's just where it is. And there's models out there we can take a look at. There's different things that we can look at. And I would ask the council to allow me to take serious to actually present something to council with some options to look at and the feasibility of such, to take an honest, hard look at it, maybe have a workshop on really looking at those and see if it is feasible for us to do and how we could do it, and even reaching out, maybe working with Fremont County, who does own the current ambulances. And there's other things that we could look at if they are unable to secure any kind of ambulance service for Fremont County.
When he's talking about this, you guys, this is coming down to the wire. We are running out of time to get things implemented. We're running out of time. They end June 30th. The contract's up.
Marty, could you speak up here? In case they're not hearing you online.
Okay. So they are, I believe it was June 30th, the contract's up.
June 30th, correct.
We have, that means countywide, there will not be an ambulance service in place. We have a Mortimer's over here that has set up and has maintained an ambulance service for 20 some years at this point. I think it's 28. But if this continues the route it's going, they have one sitting on the burner, that's AMR. They've approached 3 more that aren't even interested. They want nothing to do with it. So if we don't address this right now, we're going to be in a world of hurt. And we've got one of the most dangerous areas to work in America, as we have just witnessed. We've also got an aging community, and our travel times. My son dropped a gun a few years ago, shot himself twice with the same bullet, 43 minutes to get here from Riverton. That is unacceptable. If that kid was going to die, he'd have died laying there because it took so long for an ambulance service to get here. This is something that needs to be addressed now.
Marnie, you and I went to FCAG meeting last Thursday. And because of Friday, the county commissioners announced that they didn't have any proposals from any of the companies they'd requested. for ambulance service. So FCAT, we changed our agenda. So that was the main topic of our meeting. I asked, because of Marnie's past experience, I asked her to come to the meeting, and which she did, and it was an interesting conversation. Their county commissioners have passed on to me since that meeting that they do have at least one of the other companies they were talking to is talking to them. There seems to be no appetite by the county commissioners to continue any further conversation with AMR. The AMR just sort of was actually paying the county to do service here. And they were paying rent. They was renting the equipment. They were actually paying we found out $300,000 a year for dispatch. AMR was paying Fremont County. When Fremont County, for the county, financially did a great thing when they brought them in, because when they brought them in, I think the county was negative $1 million a year, I believe was the number they used. And so now they were getting paid by AMR, but the county has maintained and kept up the equipment. They do own it, but their AMR, if they were going to continue, they want to get paid money. There was one company talked to them that out of Powell might possibly would come down. They were 1.8 million. They come down and do what AMR was basically paying to do. And I believe the others they were expecting up to maybe 1.4 million, or maybe hoping it would be that cheap. But that's kind of where they're at, in the county says they don't have the funding to do that. So that's what but Mike Jones did pass on to me. It's not a complete dead issue. They're trying to work it out. But one of the issues was brought up, even if they bring in somebody else, do they have time to implement everything? There was some doubt that could be done. And, you know, the system the county went to, Marnie could speak that a lot better than I, but sort of chased off the EMTs and first responders, the regulations they had to drive their vehicle.
They wanted 38 hours over and above. They wanted 38 hours over and above what the state required to maintain a license as a volunteer. So essentially how it worked out is they literally ran off all of their volunteer EMTs. Because as a volunteer, it's enough to try and keep up your state hours. And I think for a basic EMT, when I was running, I believe that was 40 hours of training a year. Well, then they required another 38 to put them under their workman's comp, which I didn't understand, because they carry workman's comp on the firemen, but the county wouldn't carry workman's comp on the volunteer EMTs. So they put them on theirs and then required this extra training that nobody could do as a volunteer EMT with a full-time job. And so they essentially ran off all their volunteers in the rural areas, which also just took away from the care that was being provided that normally we would have got out here in the ditch out here. You'd have had Lysite and Shoshoni working it. Well, if you were laying out here in a ditch right now, you have whatever highway patrolman shows up and possibly a sheriff and maybe a couple firemen. And so essentially they got rid of that. And they lost, I don't think Pavilion has anything at this point as far as EMS. Lysite does. I don't know if Hudson does. I know Shoshoni has our one first responder, and that's it. And he's a basic first responder, basic first aid. And that's all he can provide.
Yeah, I went to the last Monday, Tuesday, I went to the county commissioners meeting after they announced it, see what in the heck
was going on. And I suggested to the county commissioners and FCAG, and they agreed that we're gonna develop a task force, if you will, to try to solve this together. But the towns, we're gonna have to, I don't know what the county for sure is gonna come up, but we're gonna have to work together with them and try to, and to me, part of what we used to do before with the volunteers, I think should be an important part of this.
Well, I don't know what the appetite is with some of the firemen, but on every call that ambulance goes on, fire usually is responding, if not before ambulance even gets there. And I know, having, it is volunteer, but having a volunteer fire / EMS could be a solution. And that's really what I'm kind of asking for, is to explore some options, have a workshop and present it to council to take a look at doing something. If we start planning now, we have enough time that we could probably have something close to being in place by the time everything goes bad. And I'd rather have that position than to do nothing and just hope and pray that it works out. At least have some kind of contingency that's being worked on in the meantime, even if in the end it doesn't get employed and is fruitless. We have some time to start planning that and working towards it and coalescing around something to move towards. I just think that's the more prudent thing to do given the situation and circumstances.
There's 3 of us in this room that have been through this for 30 some years.
Oh, I know.
And I know you probably have more information than I have, but I even visited with 2 of the guys from Al and a guy from Cody over here.
Mhm.
And it's just getting to be a statewide problem. And the last I heard, they don't have a serious bid. Now, if they're trying to entertain somebody, more power to them, but.
Well, that's just what the county commissioner.
Well, yeah.
Reported
yeah.
to me, he said.
I know, because they know they're in a hell of a spot.
Right now, as
Yeah.
it stands, we have
There's-
1 paramedic and 2 nurses that I'm aware of. Chris's wife being one, she just finished nursing school, and Kayla Schubach. We also have the clinic, and we might be able to utilize a little bit of their help in either training or ideas or whatever. And then we've got Mark Mortimer that is willing to sit down and kind of toss things
Sure.
around with us too.
Mhm.
And he's done a good job. He's had to kind of wide base himself so that he could make it, but he's made it a long time.
We talked with him 20 some years ago about coming south of the canyon or the
Wow.
tunnels. But I'm with Chris. I know that maintaining a volunteer, well, volunteerism in the United States now,
I know.
that to maintain that and keep it going would be a rough go. But to do it as a bridge, and then we've even talked at one time about for the police department, that the future is pretty bright if you're public safety, if you're fire, EMS, and medical. When one of your new guys decides to make a career step, those doors are wide open. But I mean, I'm just beating a dead horse here, but I'm all for somebody brainstorming something. And
Yeah, I
I know
agree.
Bob's probably so frustrated through the years because we've just watched it do this.
Yeah. We're at close to 10 years, and our issue was people moved out of town. They got tired, they got old.
They got burnt out.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, and you didn't bring that up when I talked to Cody the last time. She said the ones that didn't run off, they've worked them to death.
Yeah.
To where they're feeling like they want to quit. I probably shouldn't have mentioned the name, should I?
Well,
But,
no,
yeah.
she's a good paramedic.
Yeah,
She is.
I mean, I hate to see them lose
Well, and
her.
a lot of our help was cross-trained. How
Yeah.
many of our firemen were actually EMTs or
Oh.
advanced EMTs? Cops. Only actually, to be honest with you, I think you're probably really the first cop in town that was really cross-trained. Seriously cross-trained.
Seem to be training and everything else, so
So what are we asking for?
I just
Just,
like to have time, maybe a week, to get together what information that I can for a workshop to present a host of different things for the council to, kick around and see if there's something that would work for the town as something that's feasible, and to start. And then once that is decided on, move forward with doing that until we hear otherwise that we don't need to anymore. And that's really in a nutshell. I'd like to, have a more concrete plan, multiple options, whatever they are, do nothing all the way to do everything, what that looks like, and be able to talk about it and see, and have time to run all the numbers. I do have contacts that have done these in other communities to be able to pull down information from, get all the information I can for how many calls go out, what's required, all these things that I can't answer right now, and then present that in a workshop. And then if find something to then move forward with until we hear otherwise it's no longer needed, or in the end, that's what we go for and that's what we do. But I just think that doing nothing would be a horrible thing.
Well, I have the same concern you have, because even if they get somebody in here, they can put something together in Lander and Riverton in a hurry and probably get Hudson involved there with Lander, but we're going to be the redheaded stepchild out here in the boondocks for a while.
Where I said, maybe, one of them would be go it alone, and what do we need to do that? And that's the choice that the council decides to go for, that's what I'll go for.
I was looking to, even a month or so ago, I could see this train wreck coming down.
Oh, yeah.
That's what they were talking. And I've already been researching used ambulances, in case they didn't, you know what I mean? And looked at, there's some grant money, but not a lot. There's not enough to buy an ambulance, maybe a used one, but not to outfit it. I mean,
In the past, when Kathy and I ran, and Marty, we had, the county provided the ambulance. So the county right now has, 12 ambulances?
something like that. Well, one that
Okay.
crashed, but I think.
Okay,
but yeah.
well, and so there's a barn here in town. The county could provide machinery.
Mhm.
And the issue is that we would have to go to the county and say, we will man this vehicle.
Mhm.
And the question is training. How is it EMT 2D? I don't know if they changed the numbers on us now, but I could do defib, Lidocaine, all the drugs. So the training is the hard part. It's probably close to, my guess, 150 hours,
And
because you have to do training for them to drive, training, booked work, practicum, then you have training for your tests, and so you have your basically apprentice for a while, ride with Riverton or somebody else who's certified to check you out. There's at least probably 150 hours, if not more.
And that's where law enforcement, we get that little exemption where we can drive the ambulance, comes in. Also, Officer Relief Green, being an intermediate, he can actually put on a local class and train up to that level here locally.
Okay, so he's certified to teach.
Yes.
Okay.
So he can teach up. My wife also, now she's an RN, that goes away, but we can handle those things. So we can get that, but we'd have to get it going quickly.
Okay.
to respond.
Her problem would be conflict between directors. Yeah, because EMTs run a different director than RNs.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, she would be, she could just help facilitate, but not, yeah, she's not one that as an
Not
RN.
the bus.
But we do have current active medics, EMTs here that can actually put on a basic level class to get a basic core of volunteers together initially, if that's the route we go down. So we can arrange that and get that employed fairly quickly. It's going to take time, obviously. You can't just do it in a week, but we can start that process here relatively soon if that's what we need to do and get that done. And I've already talked to him and he would have no problem doing it. So.
Yeah, Dubois is moving forward. They've sort of fired up their old ambulance and they're moving forward. They're weighing the sticks compared to us.
Well, like Bob was saying, then finding to get somebody that would be stay in town to man it was always an issue. And there would also have been issues with employees. And sometimes it was with the town, depending on the governing body of whether or not they wanted their employees to go on a fire call or EMS call. But we can cross all that when we get to it.
Yeah,
Well, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, no,
I'm all for
that's-
you running an ambulance to Riverton.
Well, because the same problem At school, there's EMTs at school, and,
Yes,
you know,
yeah,
some superintendents said, yeah, go, and others said, no,
no, no,
unless it was somebody at school. It was like, no, we're not gonna do anything if it's all or nothing.
yeah.
So my suggestion, Chris, I like what you said earlier about having the police force involved. I would say just from personal experience from what's happened this past week, from a volunteer perspective, you get a lot of flack if you're not the Superman when you're volunteer. And so your idea about having a full-time somebody in Shoshone is probably not, we'll say, cost effective because we don't get a lot of calls in general.
Right.
But what you're talking about, having someone that could be on a payroll with a dual purpose.
Correct. They're patrolling anyway, and then when something like that comes in, they're probably going to be responding. Like example that that wreck we had out there 3 weeks ago. We responded from Shoshone because we were the closest unit, so we're still responding in that capacity, but we can do it in the other capacity as far as being, whether it be an EMT or just being a driver, and be able to get that way. There's two crews, so that you don't have to have two volunteer EMTs show up, one to drive, one to provide care. You could have the officer serve as that role and just have one, at least be able to have a functional EMT crew that would facilitate half of that problem. And that, I mean, like I said, I just want to pull everything together and present it. And
Sure. I think you're smart to have something prepared. I feel like the county will come through, and it's my opinion, they'll come through in the end just because they're so much dependent on that service. If they had to throw out $2 million versus we're not going to do anything, I
They'll
suppose
figure it out.
they'll figure it out. But I think you're right to have our own contingency, something.
and once it's decided upon, then pursue that. And then if in the end it's fruitless and unneeded, at least we have that as a backup in case worst case scenario comes to pass, and we're prepared.
Even like AMR had, with everybody, with the rules and regulations, company rules, not state. Because we looked at the state statutes. It was what their company imposed that was the barrier. Same with Du Bois. It wasn't who they wouldn't allow to drive. The same thing in Du Bois. That drove theirs away was company policy, not state policy. We looked up, Marnie printed out a book this thick. And I didn't read all of it, but I thumbed through some of the things.
I know you did.
And, but it was, I think important, because just waiting 40-some minutes, it'd be important to have someone here that could respond locally, and we've lost that pretty much. I think even if the county comes through, but I think we ought to be part of that, and part of the solution, I believe, is some volunteers and the police officers, like Chris is, I think that's part of the solution we need to work with the county on. I think that's, and Marnie she spoke very well and got a lot of attention talking about when we did FCAC. But I think, and open my eyes, a lot of this stuff, I'm not opposed to it. But I know if I want an ambulance, I want an ambulance. You know what I mean? But I think we need to look on and definitely improve on the system that they had, and try to be part of the solution, not a problem. Work with the county on this, and that's why all the mayors are trying to work to get to do something like that.
Well, Mike's right. The county's going to have to do something. They
Right.
have to write a check. But we've all seen this business that have been in the business, first responder business. They'll go through a period of time there when they don't have their ducks in a row for a backup ambulance, or they're going to have the backup ambulance went that way, the other one went that way, and we're going to sit out here and we're not even going to have a 40-minute response time.
Yeah.
I mean, you've seen it. You've seen it. So
and
if you,
that's where I'm at.
yeah, if you need I don't know if we need a motion, we need to move ahead, but I mean,
I would like to have a workshop next Friday to give me time to do that, if that's something that works, or maybe the council can have a different day, but that give me time to present.
well,
some
yeah,
things to
yeah.
council.
So you're talking about a special meeting on Friday the 7th, or this Friday? The 30th?
Next Friday. Give me a week.
Okay.
Following Friday, sorry. I know we have budget stuff. I know it's a lot of meetings, and that's why I'm kind of asking
because I know that's a lot, but I think this is one that should be separate.
That's an
from the
important
rest.
one. There's no doubt about it. I mean, like even if kids football,
Yes.
you know, sporting events, you know. I think we had, was it the year before last, we had a
Yeah.
helicopter out on the field.
Twice.
Twice, yeah.
Well, we also
Yeah,
had-
same day, wasn't it?
No, like 2 weeks apart.
We also had a game where we didn't have an ambulance at all. And Dave Riverton had a serious injury and no ambulance. Remember that?
Mhm. So yeah, this is definitely something to jump on.
So that's, I guess that's what I'd be asking for is
That's what I should.
set a date for daytime.
Because mom and dad were looking in the crowd.
We're looking at May 7th.
For the 6th, I mean, whatever.
This one is 6th, because that way somebody wants a long weekend. Mother's Day's on the 9th.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay.
I move we have a special meeting at, what time do you want it, Chris?
Well, I've said whatever works for everybody's schedule.
What day are you thinking?
Thursday the 6th? Is that good for you?
What about, I missed the one today. What about doing the meetings at 6, a workshop at 6 on the scheduled council meeting day?
That,
Might be the 11th, is the next one.
Oh,
yeah, we could, and that's where I'm running into issues is because of, we have a budget coming up, workshops, and trying to work this as an extra thing that's all by itself.
gotcha.
What about the 4th?
Next Tuesday, right?
Mhm.
We'll get a week.
So
Probably get it. I just don't want to shortchange and not have all the options. I mean, I think Wednesday we could probably middle of the week. That's a little bit easier for everybody. It gives me the weekend and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to work everything up, contact all my contacts and get everything to lined up so I can present it to actually have discussion for council.
Well, if we're gonna do it next week, that would be I wouldn't care if we did it Tuesday or Wednesday. Monday, we have fire meetings, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, for me personally, would not be.
So Wednesday.
Yeah, Tuesday or Wednesday.
Let's go Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Give you an extra day. I move we have a special council meeting on ambulance service on Wednesday, May 5th at 7 o'clock.
Second.
Been moving second, we have a special council meeting to address ambulance service on
The May 5th,
May 5th,
7 p.m.
7 PM, Wednesday, May 5th, 7 PM. Did I get a motion and a second? And any further discussion? None being, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passed unanimously. Mobile home permit, High Desert Housing.
This is for their 5th trailer.
Is this going to the east of the existing, there's 4 units,
Correct.
so it's going to the east.
Correct. They have 5 lots on the east side of the current 4 that are.
So there's 4 that are set, but they're going to they're starting a new row.
Correct.
Is that right?
Can I have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Been moved second, we approve the building the permit for High Desert Housing. Move a 16 by 80 trailer in. Any further discussion?
Have we changed the addresses? Are always the same address?
They're the same address. I believe their space numbers is what they're gonna go with. We have not officially done that.
Okay, I was wondering, that's because basically it's new land that has a street. They're all listed as A Street, if I remember right.
Yes.
So talk about EMS,
Yeah, where we're going.
which trailer is,
Yeah, sure.
yeah. I think
I
that's.
think they have it labeled on each unit.
Okay, you 1, 2, 3, or ABC, whatever.
Yeah, I'm not
I
sure.
wanna-
I haven't looked that close.
I'd have to go
I
back.
have to.
I want to say it was letters, but I believe it is individually marked.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Building permit for Joseph Babcock.
This is
I'll
for,
abstain from this. This is my brother-in-law.
it's for,
It
Want to
just
build
looks
a
like he's putting a privacy
privacy
fence in the
fence.
back and a wire in the front, as long as it isn't barbed wire, what the heck, you know? I'd move
Can't
that
do
we,
barbed wire.
well, it's, we have an ordinance that says no barbed wire fences in
Oh.
town. But I'd move that we approve that building permit.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the building permit for Joseph Babcock to construct a fence. Any further discussion? None being, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All abstain. Opposed? Motion passed. 4 in the aye, and the mayor abstained. Building permit. Kenny Keller. Kenny has brought in a building 20 by 12 where they used to have the trailer KTs and hooked them to up the gas and water and is that correct?
Yeah.
and
In fact, I saw Scotty
clarification.
Walters was hooking up the gas just the other day.
Yeah, it's gonna be on
So-
skids, but it's gonna be, he wants to be permanent.
Mhm.
So just to clarify, it's not actually being constructed, it's still gonna be on skids.
So it's there now. It's
It's
arrived.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just closing the loop on the paperwork, yeah.
Yes.
So I'd move that we approve that.
Second.
Been moving second that we approve the building permit. Any further discussion? None being, all in favor, say aye. Approve the building permit for Kenny Keller.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Alcohol permit for Kathy Blair.
Oh, that's a pretty rowdy bunch there, Joel.
Yeah.
Is this a Geritol permit?
Well,
I saw it go.
but it's laced.
Having said that, I'll move that we approve that permit with an apology about the Geritol.
They'll be in shooter format.
Been moving second, we approve the alcohol permit at the Town Plaza on June 26th.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? None being, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Do we have anything else from citizens?
Oh, you're welcome.
None? unfinished, go to an unfinished business, town cleanup.
Oh, yeah. Apparently Buddy couldn't make it.
Well, our last conversation, I think there was appetite to try to help some of the people that had problems doing it themselves, or that we just and encourage the community to do a cleanup on their own, but not to do what we've been doing in the past, what we've done for quite a few years in the past. That I think that was our sentiment. We were gonna advertise, or try to get people to call in if they have. Grandma can't load the fridge or do something like that, but not use it just as a general trash pickup.
I visited with Bud this afternoon, and that was what his sentiment was, anybody with physical disabilities or elderly, anybody that just couldn't do it, to call in. Get together.
We could put that out on our water bill.
Bingo, yeah.
What do you think?
We also talked about not having certain items, tires, paint.
Right.
Oh, yeah, and there's something about computers or electronics or batteries or something. I'm not sure what that was
Or
about.
hazmat.
Hazmat stuff.
That we're having certain, recyclables given away.
So guess we'll get with Buddy and come up with that list and put that on put it out.
Next
Water
week.
bill.
Yeah, next week.
Yep. That sound reasonable?
How about in the newsletter, we are restricted as to our lines on the water bill itself?
No, yeah, that's what I meant with that.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be in the mayor's letter,
Okay.
Yeah.
but it'll be at that.
What date?
I think work with Buddy on that. You think whatever he thinks will work best. That's my suggestion, if that works.
Well, he planned on being here, but he's got a lot going on with having to go get, that surgery and the trip and everything.
Right,
So,
yeah.
He probably just couldn't make it.
I guess I can say that my intent from the police department side is beginning May 1st. We're going to start going around town and issuing cleanup letters.
Mhm.
Just to notify, to give 30-day notice to get things done. So sometime that hopefully will spark that. So maybe, I know Buddy's not here, but maybe that might give some guidance on where to go in May, before Memorial Day or right after or whatever. But that's our intent from the police department side, is to go around and identify all the homes that require it and just give the courtesy, hey, this needs to be done. And that might spark them to call if they need assistance in getting it done.
Yeah.
Gary, do you have a comment on that was
I do.
helpful?
I sit on the solid waste board.
Could you please come up and speak? Okay, so I can hear you. And my concern is still got quite a few people. Thank you.
I'm Gary Weiss, with the Solid Waste Board. The solid waste, you'll have to take it to Riverton, Lander, or Du Bois. But you can take your TVs, your electronic stuff, computers, laptops, anything that's got electronics in it. You can take them over there and they will take them for free.
Oh.
And then we did that to keep it out of the landfill. So that's another alternative you can keep in mind. That if somebody has to go to Riverton to go to work and they want to get rid of a TV, rather than put it out, they can take it and do the same thing.
Anything else?
That's all.
Did,
The hours or what time frame?
They're 8 to 5, Tuesday through Saturday. They're closed Sunday and Monday.
So if we collected everything, I'm just asking, if we collected everything here, like Buddy, myself, and the crew and stuff, and we took it down at one truckload for the town, then they take it all at once?
Yeah. As far as I know.
So if we put up a collection point here in town, and then when we're making a trip all at once, have a date and.
I wouldn't line up all the city trucks. But you know, if
I was just asking.
Buddy's going to town
Yeah,
and he's
that's-
taking his truck, he can put it in the back.
That's why I was asking if they would
Yeah.
charge if we had more than just, one TV or something, or if
No.
we just did all at once.
Well, let's put it this way. I've helped people dispose of theirs by taking them when I went to solid waste meetings. And I had a pickup load one time. So,
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up. I didn't want to volunteer you, but you used to take it, I know.
I
well,
was just trying to
that's
play by
okay.
the oil,
Yeah.
so.
I'm going to volunteer your trailer to help too, Joel. You know, it hauled water goods, so it should haul TVs.
Well, I go over there 2 or 3 times a week. I can
Anything
throw 'em
else?
in my pickup.
No, thank you, Gary.
So Buddy and I, and we set like a date or whatever, and got with you,
I think so.
and that way have a collection point that we can set here in town, and people can drop it off, and then, I know Buddy's not here, but to me, it would make things a little bit easier, especially for people that.
Yeah, I'll take some stuff over too. Like I say, I'm over there 3 days or more a week, so.
If you wanted to do that, so the end results, so to save the crew time, typically what the solid waste board does is or the waste center, they take everything and they put it inside of IBC totes. They're the totes with a cage on them, is how they then transport it to the end. So if it was something that you wanted to do, we have extra totes that we could give the town. So when you guys get them, put them in the totes, put the totes on your trailer. So when you get to the other end, they will just take them off of the forklift. I would verify that with the receivership, but they would save you a lot of time. And when you get in these little itty bitty pieces and crap, you can just throw them in the tote and they're not going to fall out going down the road. And it would give you some time to acquire instead of just having a pile on the ground.
Right, yeah. Okay, I'll get with Buddy tomorrow, and I'll get back with you,
Okay.
Mayor, and if that's okay with the council.
We got a plan. Like it. Want to move on to new business? Would Chris like to talk about the Wasatch Victim Benefit Fund?
So obviously, everyone's well aware of kind of what happened. Councilman Demick was the second one there with me that day, and a lot of what this is I've been in some form of public service my entire life, where between the military, law enforcement, any given time, it's always in the back of my mind, my family, because just the line of work. I mean, everybody has risks at work, but it's more in front and center in those types of line of work. Unfortunately, the results of that incident were what they were, despite everything that we could possibly do. The end result was what it was. But it left a family without a father, without a husband, left a young kid that, did a lot to take care of his family. And I just thought, what can I do that I couldn't do then that I could still do? And obviously lots of GoFundMe and people want to raise money and things like that, but what can I do from what I know and what contacts can I employ? One of those was I reached out to Kevin, I can never say his name, Krishishnik.
That's good.
Is that pretty close? Yeah. I said, this is what I want to do. How can you help me? And so I formed a benefit, Wasatch Victims Benefit Fund through Idea Inc.
and their nonprofit arm, the Riverton Depot Foundation. They agreed with me and signed on with me to provide the fiscal monitoring for a 501c, a nonprofit, to raise money and collect that money in the name of the Wasatch Benefit Victims Fund. Because they are a nonprofit, they can't give money to individuals, only to entities. So what I would ask of the council is the authority to create a bank account under the name of the Wasatch Victims Benefit Fund in the care of the town of Shoshoni. So when the funds are raised, they can transfer the funds to that fund, which is managed by the town of Shoshoni, and the town can then distribute the funds to the families. That they agreed to do with no overhead, no costs. 100% of the money goes to the families. What that does is it opens up a funding mechanism that, through our official abilities, that can go throughout the state as a fund, as opposed to an individual trying to raise money on a GoFundMe on Facebook. This is the conduit in which, if you remember the vandalism that took place, the Veterans Memorial Park in Riverton, this is how the city of Riverton raised the money for that. The city created the fund, or the person within the city created the fund. Idea Inc. through the Riverton Depot Foundation provided the fiduciary to collect the monies, and then wrote the check to the city of Riverton, who then, through the foundation or the fund that was created, applied those funds directly. The reason that I would ask to create a separate bank account for twofold, we can do it with just one, but in this case, I know we just got done talking about bank accounts and everything else, but this would be a temporary bank account. That would still be under the town's control. That would require the signature of a council member to distribute funds. That would still be in the control of the final distribution through the city council. So it gives it credibility, it gives it some kind of semblance of a surety for people that donate, but it also allows for those large amounts of anonymous donations to be placed for these families. And I just, this is the least that I can do.
And there's no tax monies involved in this whatsoever.
This has nothing to do with.
We're great with the state and everything.
Yep.
I'd make a motion that we do that.
I second it.
So it's been moved and seconded that we give Chris the authority to establish the Wasatch Victims Benefit Fund. Any further discussion?
Open the bank account.
Oh,
in the name of.
Okay, and open the bank account in the name of the Wasatch Victims Benefit Fund that the town of Shoshoni will supervise.
That's just a mechanism for the
Right.
Nonprofit to transfer monies to the entity and then for us to distribute, because they
So you can
can't.
distribute
Right,
it to
yeah.
places where
As
they can.
described.
Just like we can't give money to individuals as a town.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Any further discussion? None being, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay. The Shoshoni Library Pancake Breakfast Barbecue.
Melissa's on. I don't know if she's going to speak on that or not. See her. Well, Kathy Blair's here, so do you want to speak on this, Kathy?
What?
Pancakes.
Oh, there's
That-
Melissa.
I'm here.
She is there.
Go ahead, Melissa.
Okay. We are doing barbecue and pancake breakfast and a yard sale all in once. So we can buy new books to put on the shelves and we can start, and I'm already started pulling the old ones that have been there since 1951, 1947. And they haven't been checked out since 1988. And it's just to put new books on the shelves since we have a low budget.
What
And
time?
I think I started at 8 on Saturday and Sunday. And I'll be donating my time Sunday too. Anything else, Chris?
Do you have the flyers you want me to post, or is it both days or just Saturday?
It's both days. I've already posted it on County 10, Shoshoni, Thermopolis, Lander, all over Facebook. And
Yeah, I'd
I've
like
post-
to.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, I'd like to encourage people to come. It's got, and the library's got a new look. Get a chance, come down, take a look. Melissa's worked real hard down there. Kathy Blair donated hundreds, I don't know, many hours to also help down there, and it's come along real good.
I think Jake's wife's been down there a lot too, hasn't she?
Yeah, I believe she has too. Yes.
A couple little
Yeah,
kids.
Carly Stadler's been there. I mean, but it's a new look, and encourage people to come down. The coffee's been real popular there, right, Melissa?
Yeah.
No. So anyway, very, very, very good.
What time are you serving pancakes till?
Probably right at 8 o'clock. I'll be there about 7 o'clock in the morning to get stuff going and stuff. And I'll start setting up on Friday.
How late Saturday? Like if I slept in and I wanted to wander
Probably
down
about
at 10
5
o'clock
o'clock.
for a pancake. You're
You
gonna
want a
serve
pancake at
pancakes
5
all
o'clock?
day?
Sure.
I
I'll
guess
have
it's,
your coffee going too, Joel.
Okay, all right. That's both days, same time frame? Just
Yep.
clarifying, sorry.
Yes.
Very good, thank you.
What time does barbecue start?
Oh, yeah, sorry, that's where I was going with that, with the pancake. What time
Around
does the
noon.
actual barbecue start?
Around noon, unless you want a hamburger at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Well,
I
some-
would.
With eggs rolled in a burrito?
Yeah, we can
Do
do
you
that.
have a-
We'll throw
do you
some
have
eggs on it.
Do you have a menu that you'd like me to post on our platforms too for people so they have an idea of what's offered? Or is it just hamburgers and pancakes?
It's just hamburgers and pancakes.
Okay. No further questions? Move on to there's none being. Move on to the clerk. Report.
I just touched on a few things. I applied for a random grant with Pacific Corp for $1,000 and we just received it last week. That was for the town plaza for the fencing. So it just gave us a little bit of extra money for that project. We're still waiting for the community gas, the final distribution, the 3,800, which was also for the fencing. It was applied for last year. So when we get that distribution, that will more than pay for the fencing around the park. Also on the WCDA, just an update on that. We're waiting for the final executable contract. Once we do have that in place, we can then start actually awarding and going through the bid process to get the work done for the Shoshoni Motel and the Rippers. So that's the final thing we're waiting on. And I don't know if with Thai Hydro, they have submitted their engineering aspect of it. That needs to be signed, but I'm not sure if we're going to have to bid that out or not. I have to get clarification from WCDA, so I'll let the mayor know, and then he can, if it needs to be on the next agenda, if not.
Right.
But I'll get clarification one way or the other before we do that. I also applied for $100,000 for the Department of Homeland Security grant, which would be applicable to the admin building for town hall. And that would be used for target hardening, would be the main emphasis, which would be putting windows in there that are shadow resistant, bulletproof, things like that, security cameras, apparatuses, metal detectors, things like that, basically, and harden the walls so that you can just kick down a wall, walk through the building. Obviously, here we're pretty soft target, and this is what that $100,000 would be for, but it would actually be dual purpose because the walls would go up anyway. So they're just more secure walls, basically. Talked about a little bit about the budget process. I would anticipate having a budget workshop May 6th at 7 p.m. Again on May 11th at 6 p.m., which is right before the council meeting. So that kind of eliminates having to have those extra days. And then also May 20th, if needed, which is, I believe, a Friday. But that would be the last. Is it Thursday? Yep. Okay. Yep. Sorry, Thursday. That's if needed, but that would just give us the flexibility of plan to employ if we get to that point right before we go into the first reading, which would be May 25th. So that's my plan for the budget process. 2, possibly 3 workshops if we need to, leading up to the first reading. And then I kind of touched on the town purchasing the domains for email recordings. That was kind of part of the audit too. Without getting too far into the IT stuff, that was one of the things that leaves us open for vulnerabilities and compromise our security. So the town did purchase the domain, which is Shoshoni, townofshoshoni.org, all one word, .org. Every councilman has their instructions on how to create their unique password. I will update the website with their email so you can contact them directly. There is going to be somewhat of a transition period, but at some point we're going to have a drop dead date of when all communications on other emails ceases and is all on this completely. Obviously, lots of contacts, especially with the town, we have to change those around because that's going to take a little bit of time. But everything needs to go through these official channels, mainly for transparency and for public records, because we can't secure anything with Google or Yahoo on a free account. We don't own the domain, especially when they host a server in Bulgaria or China or Russia or wherever they hold it at. Good luck, I know it's a small community, but still, this is what we had to do. So that has been done. Once I kind of see where we're at with the town side, I'll get with the mayor and propose a drop dead date where all correspondence will go through these channels. I know it's a lot of email changes and I know it's confusing, but hopefully this will in the future rectify that and everybody will have their own not personal, but business email for all business purposes, as well as a official one for the town and the police department that is in the library that is separate from the general email for all correspondence that we pass out to public entities to be able to do business. But then we all have our own emails that we communicate. What this also does is it will actually streamline some of this stuff that we do on city council meetings because of the drive features where we can securely store information and then we can modify and share and do things offline and do town business that way when it's not in the council setting, especially like with budgets, map planning, whatever it may be. You can do these modifications prior to council meeting and not have to wait till you get here to see it. It can be on the drive for you to be able to download and discern. So that I'm kind of excited about that because I think that'll give a lot of input from council members well before council meeting and be able to make notes, recommendations. So when it does come up during the meeting, it's right there. You already had time to make your changes or notes to it and talk about it, not have a picture, something that people can can see as opposed to a theoretical, what about here, here, here? You can actually modify those things through the drive. And that's all I have from the clerk side.
So you don't want us doing a Hillary Clinton with the email then?
Please don't, please don't, please don't.
I'm sorry, I was told I had to kill him and allow the mayor's doing whatever.
I mean, I mean, if you have to get a hammer and some dry ice and, a bomb to blow it up, I mean, I know what you did with that hard drive, but there's something on it you don't want anybody to see. Magnets work a lot better.
Oh, yeah.
I believe the mayor is using facilities.
Is moved back to our 6 o'clock meeting. We have this. Too much. That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm asking.
I was trying to make some questions. That's my opinion.
Just a thought that, for the same day. Okay,
I did the 11th.
yeah, that's budget though.
Yeah.
I was thinking property.
Oh, property. I think I have the ambulance.
Oh, well, I have ambulance special counsel here. Yeah, but I was also thinking about having property. We were just talking about the 6 o'clock. That's right.
Yeah.
So I need to make a motion.
Yeah.
Not budget. Those two items.
I don't think we have to make a motion. We just tell them.
Okay. Let's do that.
Ready to round table, old admin building. Hopefully soon to be a new town hall. Chris talked about the hardening of it, applied for a grant for that, but talking with our contractors, probably we've talked to an architect. We need to probably get someone stamp and approve some of the things. We did have an architect come and do a walkthrough and look around and pointed out, we need an egress door out of what will be the new council room / judge courtroom that we didn't plan on. She had several other suggestions. So pretty much the bulk of what our plan was laid out was pretty good. But we're gonna, one thing, the building's bigger, so it breaks the 5,000 square foot limit. Once you get bigger than 5,000 square foot, it causes, there's a different set of rules you gotta follow.
Oh,
Fire code.
Fire code.
And stuff
Yeah.
like that. Anyway, it's probably before we was able to kind of do it on the cheap and was able to work through and work through the clinic, but with what we're doing there, it's probably going to involve an architect. And that's saying that's going to cost more money also. But we're going to look at options. We're waiting for estimate for architect services. Hopefully I'll have that for the next council meeting. And with that, some hopefully I have solid numbers of what we're, and of course the building material just keeps skyrocketing. They haven't leveled off or not slow enough. They just keep going higher and higher. So there's I think probably a pretty good chance, not including the hardening, that we could be talking $300,000. The good news is, but we can afford that. We do have the funding for that. If we'd have had earlier, we may have had it's more options on grants or something. Right now, I'm looking at what other additional funding or help we can do to do this if we need to, but we do have the capability to do that, but it's my guess is we're pretty easily going to probably be in that range. I know I initially didn't think it was going to be over 200 at the most, but it's going to be more. The architect, I think the architect will be greater than 35,000. But she would oversee the whole operation, make sure everything's done right, everything meets code. She's got some more suggestions on maybe some things we can save some money on. The door is going to cost us.
Each door, I believe, is around about $6,000 per door.
That's just the door. That is
Per door.
Yeah, that's not the time putting it in, making a hole. You know what I mean?
Well,
A hardened door, yeah,
Yeah,
6,000.
I'm familiar with the building, and I haven't even given that a thought, especially back in the old home rec room in the preschool. As soon as you partition that off, then you won't have the egress, and sooner or later in there somewhere, they're gonna have to penetrate that brick wall.
Yeah,
And that's what you're talking
yeah,
about.
yeah. We all missed that.
Yeah, I didn't
The
even think
contract,
about
Brad, he missed that too. Really, everything else.
Yeah.
And there's maybe ways to do a few other things by running the room to try to compartmentize things, try to save us some funding of what we're required because of fire code and stuff. But there's she has done a lot. She's done work for the school in the past, and she's done work with I think most of the municipalities, Riverton Land, and the county done a lot of work. So out of Riverton.
One thing I'll add if you don't mind.
Yeah, please do.
So there's a ever increasing definition of what infrastructure means going on in the country right now. We still haven't gotten the final guidance on recent monies that was allocated to the state from the rescue package of passed. Sorry. So that's going to be something that I'm going to really look at, maybe finding a mechanism that will cover it if it falls in that purview as well. So in addition to the Homeland Security grant that was applied for, that might be able to, I don't know the answer yet, but that obviously is a moving target with what qualifies as infrastructure.
My understanding is they're exercising a pretty broad view right now.
Well,
Later,
yeah.
after the COVID goes away, it might shrink, so strike while the iron's hot.
Well, the time's going to be of the essence because the state has 4 years to spend the money. So it's going to come out in spurts, but when it comes out, we need to be ready, and that's hopefully we'll get some guys.
Just wanted to bring everybody up to the townspeople and the council, everybody up to where we're at on that. But we're working on it. Well, the latest, they also advised that we have asbestos inspected for asbestos.
Oh, we did that. Wasn't there one already? The school did, when they did their abatement.
Not up there.
Oh, no.
And I will, last time we just had to have the roof for the senior center inspected for asbestos. And there was a little. I wouldn't have guessed it, Bill. But
I know the school had that big asbestos abatement program, and it was supposed to include all the outbuildings, but maybe it didn't include administrative stuff.
Well,
Or
maybe
bus
if you
garages,
brought
didn't
that up,
include where there
maybe
weren't
Bruce got
kids.
a record of it that she could give us. I
He
wasn't
has a
aware of that.
record. Check Bruce, yeah. that would
Yeah, no,
save
I'm
that.
glad I thought of that. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, I thought school did that.
No, yeah, I didn't even, yeah, but that was, yeah, their check, I thought it was new enough, you wouldn't worry about it, but there's sometimes glue or stuff they put it, I mean, it just, I'm not gonna, but anyway. In the wrong business. But that was, but anyway, but we're kind of meandered, did we? We had a talking about that we had on the boiler, we had failure on the igniter. Failure on the igniter.
It's replaced now Friday.
I think so, buddy. Yeah, but we've been busy, but yes. I think it was. Other than that, that's basically. Anybody else have anything good for the community?
I was contacted by county planning. They're having discussion about what is called Bonneville Road, which is not a road. It never has been a true road. So they contacted me as a property owner there, and they want to communicate with the council as well as far as, so they're striving to go for this back to the EMS type stuff. Our location there was given an address that doesn't register on Google, doesn't register on anything. So the county is trying to rectify what to do with that. One of the suggestions that they're going to ask is about abandoning the term Bonneville altogether and renaming the road, so it's not confused with the town of Bonneville. So as it stands now, someone who's coming from Casper, there's a sign that says Bonneville, which they can go down and hit a river and try their luck if they want to cross. Otherwise, they'll be directed to go around and enter into Bonneville. So they said as of now, they're not making any immediate action, but it is on their radar to make some decision and coordinate.
Glad you brought that up. I did talk to them. I have to look at my notes last week, Thursday, Friday. I think I forget the gentleman's name.
Steve, it's not Steve. See, that's right. You're Steve.
Yeah.
Steve.
I did talk to him. We did kick that around. So yeah, that's on the radar that it's confusing for them. So yeah, we're gonna.
Yeah, so like I said, they're going to make strides. But they had told us, so they want to assign us a new number. However, they don't want to assign it to Bonneville Road because it's not a true road name. So I said, well, you guys ought to figure this out before we do this again.
Yeah, that argument has going on a long time. We pay for maintaining and stuff like that. But yeah, we need, and what they said makes sense. So it's not confusing, the MTs. Give it an address, a name.
Like I said, they'll have further talks. Like I said, it's kind of, it puts me, I'm in a spot only because of the property owner there. But as far as the liaison for the council as well, I said, that's kind of convenient. So I said, I would bring it up to the council and say, just a heads up.
Yeah. Yep, very good. Come up with a good idea for a name yet?
Well, I could sure come up with one real quick.
I wouldn't put you on the spot. No. I wouldn't do that, would I? But anyway, yeah, that's something we need to kick around. Anyway, thanks. Anybody else? On?
No, that's all taken care of. That's.
I got one thing, just, wanted to apologize to the town for being gone so long. You know, I deal with my mom over in Arizona. You know, her health is, it's not good. She's probably dropped down 25% of what I was expecting from when I saw her last. I ended up staying out there, heck, a little over a month, I think. Gonna go back down again. Towards the end, right at the end of the month, but only be gone 2 weeks this time. But I did stay in contact with town hall and citizens of the town. You know, talk to Joel, talk to Chris, talk to the gals here in the office. And I just want to apologize for that. I wanted to do some more things tonight, but I think I'll wait till the next council meeting because I think we just need to get through the week and let things settle and stuff like that. But anyways, I just wanted to, you know, let people know where, you know, where I was at family wise. And then I also wanted to thank everybody for showing up again and people that are watching and paying attention. Because we definitely need people paying attention because it's what we are all paid for. We're here for you guys.
Yeah, I'd like to bring up one more thing. I forgot the funeral service is going to be out at the Shoshoni Cemetery, 2 o'clock for Daniel. His family has the rec center reserved. After that, they're going to have a sort of a carry-in, brought in snacks or something. I think they may have some pulled pork or something like that. But anybody in the community would like to drop something that's Thursday, drop something off, chips, finger food or something like that. They're expecting over 100 people there. But I get, and they're gonna, you know, have a celebration of life for Daniel. Left off young, but I just wanted to bring that up because I'm sure anybody that dropped off something, chips and brownies, I mean, whatever. So I asked them, anybody bringing soda pop or water? They didn't know, maybe, I don't know, you know, but I've stopped by and talked with them a couple of times. They're grieving, as you would expect. I just want to mention that. And they sure also asked me to thank Mike, Bob, and Chris for what they all three were on the site. They've asked me to pass that on. They really appreciated what all three of you did. Other than that, anybody have anything else? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Been moved and second. That was a fast second. Any further discussion? None being, all in favor to close our meeting at 10 after 9? 9:11. All in favor, say aye. 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 Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Thank everybody for coming.
You have to up your game if you're going to beat me to looking at a motion. I've told you that before.
The second,
I can't believe he got on that. Yeah.
I got the S sound. Like, damn.
Just tried to put off one of the back. Good. I was only person trying to talk it.
I don't know about you, but if I put it off too long, I may not make it.
Yeah, that's where I was at. Wasn't gonna be good. Just get better when I get older.
Well, how's Will doing down there?
He's doing good. He's SRT.
He's a who?
Oh,
Oh, he is. Good for him. I thought you said SRT, but I thought it might have been SRO, and I'm going, he's nuts.
No, he's doing good out there. He had an out while I was down there. He went in on our vehicle. And took care of some things. So we can see. And then I got to see a video of him on right before I left out. Because I brought it up. They, you know, we did. There's police station moved into it. We're trying to move out of the
it's been.
But it's the big thing. When I went with them, they had a warrant out for a guy. They knew it was around. So we'll position himself, I'll put some there on that. And one guy talked on the door, then here. Guy wouldn't. I went to see her. Well, the next day when the guy's girlfriend calls, they told the fire chief, like, you can't get like that response. I said, what's the trick? They went over there, knocked on the door. The guy was ran. We got to see
Do not run for the police. That's rule number one.
So Will, as he's running chase, and the guy, tells him just grab the arrow, blah, 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 blah. Well, then he sees reaches in the back.
So I'm saying middle.
So Will dropped the gun, and the guy had a gun.
So,
40. And it was